It's US Masters week, it's Augusta week, and it is nobody can form an opinion week. That's right, yet again, nobody can form an opinion on anything, so we're going to try and form an opinion on something now ourselves that sits outside what everyone else is thinking. So our opinion is not necessarily going to be on Scottie Scheffler, although I do think 6.0 is a 16% chance the markets have of him winning. They give 83% to the field. I think that's a lot for Scottie Scheffler. I mean, I know he's playing good golf, but I'm not going to look at the outright. In this video, I want to have a look at hole-in-one. I mean, I had a look at, is there a 9-darter in the PDC World Championships? I do like these bets. It's a bet that traditionally a lot of buyers would be on the unpopular side. So everyone wants to bet the yes, so margin goes on to the no. In this bet, though, because the yes is heavy odds on, you got to wonder if that applies. Now, it's been a long time since the hole-in-one gang, the syndicate of John Carter and Paul Simons, went up and down the country because they found outlier prices for hole-in-one in PGA and European Tour tournaments, and they put them into multiples, and they cleared up. If you want to hear more about that story, it was in Bashcast 204, which was April the 21st, a long time ago I did that. But instead I want to have a look at hole-in-one in Augusta. Now this should be a fairly sharp line because the whole world's got the same data here, right? So someone's got to have come up with something. Well, if you look at what the bookmakers are doing, they are all priced at 1.44. And when I say them all, I mean nobody can form an opinion. Everyone's just gone 1.44 for there to be a hole-in-one. Bet365, 1.44 yes. Star Sports, 1.44 yes. Boyle Sports, 1.44 yes. Betfair Sportsbook, 1.44 yes. How about we go on a plane, fly over the Atlantic, go to America, log on to DraftKings Sportsbook, 1.42 yes. And what are they doing on the no? 2.63, most of them. 2.65 at DraftKings. I mean, that's no difference whatsoever. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to try and price it up ourselves. Can we form an opinion? Can we prove that our opinion's valid? So we need to do a couple of things. First of all, we need to work out the probability of a player getting a hole-in-one at Augusta. So I know there are various statistics that a professional getting a hole-in-one's between 2,500, 5,000 to 1, something like that. But look, the greens at Budleigh Salterton Municipal Course are going to have a different stimp meter rating to Augusta, which are blisteringly fast. So I just want to have a look at Augusta data, but that's a small sample size. I don't know how far back I'm going to look for holes-in-one. Do I go back in Augusta data to 1936, because there was a hole-in-one then. There was a hole-in-one 1934. There was a hole-in-one 1940, but there wasn't in 1941. There wasn't in 1942. So is that data relevant today? No, it isn't. Everything's different. So much is different that data isn't relevant. So we've got to question, when does the data stop being relevant? I'm going to look at birdie or better percentages on the PGA Tour for professionals going back to the year 2000. Okay, 24 years should be enough. That'll be about my frame. And can I remove any information from that? Okay, if we do look at birdie or better, there's an interesting trend where it seems to get worse every year to 2008. And then it gets better and it's kind of static, give or take, at around about the 13%. 13% of par threes played by PGA professionals on the PGA Tour are getting birdie or better. Getting a 2, or of course if it's better than a 2, it's a hole-in-one. Now I don't really care about the hole-in-one in itself. I think if the birdies are improving, the chances of holes-in-one are improving. There's a correlation there. Now, back in 2000, it was 13.03%. This year in 2024, it's 12.92%. That's so close. The average between 2000 and 2024 is 12.99%. So 2024 up till now is actually a little bit worse than the average for the last 24 years. They're not getting better, not by any statistically relevant amount. In fact, by any amount. They're under the average. You do see a slight change a trend going up to 2008 where it got worse year and year and year and year going to 2008, and then it got a bit better? Perhaps they were trying to make it harder, and then, you know, the PGA, they can control things. They can change the rules around golf balls. They can make flag positions harder, stimp meter readings harder, things like that. They changed drivers, which, although not applicable for hole-in-one analysis, the PGA are able to combat the fact that players are hitting it further, they're getting stronger, they're going to the gym, training is better, university funding is better for the players coming through. And so they combat the players getting better by changing certain things. And quite simply, the data is showing that going back to 2000, we're not getting any more birdies on the PGA Tour than we were at the beginning. In fact, if anything, slightly marginally less in 2024. And I find that very interesting. Because now let's look at Augusta holes-in-one. And what do we see? Last year, none. Okay, 1 year, none. Sample size, right? The year before, none. The year before, 2. Let's go back to 2010. On average, going back to 2010, well, there were 14 holes-in-one in 14 years. But going back to 2000, there were only 19 holes-in-one in 24 years. Now, I think that the mean number of holes-in-one that we can expect this year sits somewhere between those two averages, between 0.79, which is the average going back to 2000, holes-in-one per tournament, and 1, somewhere in that region. So let's use some bounds. That's that our upper bound, the most we can expect, I think, is 1. And that 1 really would assume that this year's players are playing better than they have since 2010 on par 3s. The data's not showing that. So you know, that's a loosey-goosey upper bound. I think it's much shorter than that, but let's just use it 1 per year. And the lower bound is going to be 0.791667. That's the average going back to 2000. What does that equate to in terms of probability if we use a distribution curve? What it equates to is yes of 1.58 at the higher bound and 1.82 at the lower bound. So those odds of 1.44 for yes are pretty safe. I can't make 1.44 value under any estimation, right? But what about the no? You know, the no 9 data, we were maybe suggesting we could bet blindly. The no for the hole-in-one is slightly different because it's not the odds on price, and so fave long shot buyers, perhaps a few more people, will be betting recreationally just on the no. I mean, it's never fun to bet on the no because you're watching round 2, Mike Weird is 17 shots over, and then they cut to him on the par 3 16th hole for no reason, and you're like, well, he's got a hole-in-one now, hasn't he? Because why else would they be showing him? So, look, if the yes is 1.58, we just take the reciprocal of that, and the no is 2.71. 2.718. Okay? So, we're getting 2.63 at the bookmaker. It's not quite value. On the exchange, actually, the liquid price just now to back is 2.72, which is like bang on my price. But it is quite gappy up to 3.1. And saying this out loud on this video will probably get it cut, but it's 9-4 at Sky Bet, 3.25, which will probably have some effect on the exchange price. So that's value. The no at Sky Bet at 3.25 is value. The thing is, I don't think it is 2.72. 2.72 counts only if you take the upper bound as the average of the holes-in-one going back to 2010. But that is quite optimistic. I think there are fewer holes-in-one in that because I don't think players are playing par 3s any better. The data's not showing that they are. I think it's closer to the lower bound of 0.79. Now we're talking about the no fair odds being 2.21, something like that. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing value across the board. I'm seeing value at every bookmaker from DraftKings, Bet365, Star Sports, Boyles, Unibet, Coral, Sky Bet would be 3.25 to back the no and 2.21 fair odds. And I think it's quite close to that. The exchange, it's not that. You can go and bet on the exchange now. You can sweep all of that up for the no. That's value there. That's my opinion. That's this episode of Nobody Can Form an Opinion. I've formed the one, and I'm personally saying I make every no at every bookmaker. I couldn't check Pinnacle because they don't have a line there, but I just make it value. I think it's... and argue, if you think I'm wrong, argue why. Why do you think that using data, holes in one from Augusta since 2000 is a bad analysis, right? 19 holes in one in 24 years. Why is that bad? Because the birdies are better on par 3s since 2000, are no better this season than they have been since 2000. So why is that analysis bad? I think it's good. And given that, we're looking at 2.20, 2.21 for the no, and everyone's good value. Moving on to some ROI chat. Just for fun, this, because the sample sizes are too low. Without looking at it, I thought that we might be down on the Masters and the majors. Just thinking about it. Because it's like the US Masters, the bookmakers roll the concessions out. There's this game of one-upsmanship. Who can offer the most amount of places on a major? 8 places here, 9 places here, 10 places. Now we're 12 places with Betfair Sportsbook. And in the past, I've thought, gosh, we should have been hitting more winners and places than we have been doing. But I had never actually summarised it. We've looked at, I think, somewhere in the region of like 20 odd tournaments. Not that many. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17 majors we've looked at. Okay, at Bookie Bashing, and we take maybe 5 to 10 players off of the golf tracker, and we just monitor their ROI just to check that the golf tracker is profitable over time. Now, 20 tournaments, 17 tournaments, sample size is so low, it doesn't matter if that's up or down, it doesn't prove anything. So this is just for fun. How have we done in the majors? In the Masters, we've had 2 winning years and 2 losing years. So we lost in 2020, we won in 2021, we lost in 2022, we won last year. Without looking at the data, I suspect that was 1 or 2 places in both of those winning years was just enough. For an overall of 6.87% return on investment on the US Masters, with a £1,000 bankroll, you would have made £47.95, having staked 698 quid across those 4 tournaments. Looking at all majors though, 45% return on investment. That's the Open, the US Masters, the US Open and the US PGA. Caveat, Luke List in the first tournament accounted for quite a lot of that profit, and without Luke List it would have been halved, it would have been 20%, and that's the game that you play when you're looking at return on investment across 17 golf tournaments. So I mean, the long-term ROI of the golf tracker is about 35 to 40%. It changes a little bit over time. 32% the last time we updated it, although I haven't updated it in a month or 2, so we'll maybe get on that. And as always, look, if you're betting, concentrate on hitting those places. That's where the value is. If you hit the winner, yada, congratulations, but that is a little bit of a bonus in these each way place bets. Or if you want to look and concentrate on the winner, maybe take the prices on the exchange instead of the bookmaker. They can be a little bit more value on the outright winner. Always fun, but don't think we've had the winner of a major yet. Perhaps tournament 18 could be the one. If Scotty Scheffler wins it, it certainly won't be. And if Mike Weir gets that hole in one on his second round on the par 3 16th, then he's probably going to ruin my profit loss on the US Masters this year as well.